This week, I rank 15 of the most underrated and unappreciated rock and metal albums of 1991. When you're done, as always, you can check out past album rankings videos, as the playlist is in the description box. It's time to get right down to it. We start off with Don't Come Easy, the debut studio album from Tyketto. They're from my old stomping grounds of New York City. Tyketto was comprised of Danny Vaughan, Brooks St. James, Jimmy Kennedy, and Michael Clayton. This record is only notable for its standout track Forever Young. There were other tracks like Wings, Burning Down Inside and Lay Your Body Down were underrated gems. Since then, Tyketto had disbanded in 1996, reformed briefly in 2004, and reformed again in 2008. The most recent studio album was 2016's Reach. Next, it's Kik Tracy's debut record, No Rules. The album was produced by Slaughter's Dana Strum. This band was one of the final groups to debut within the glam metal scene, and this record was the last glam metal record to be released before the genre's popularity faded into dust in favor of grunge and alternative rock. The band's only other release was the EP Field Trip that was released in 1992, before the band called it quits in 93. The standout tracks include You're So Strange and Don't Need Rules, and they even did a cover of the Simon and Garfunkel song Mrs. Robinson. We then have the Bullet Boys' second record, Freak Show. This album was the follow-up to their successful 1988 debut. Even though it reached number 69 on the Billboard 200, the album failed to meet expectations from its debut. Nonetheless, the record had some kick-ass original cuts like THC Groove, Thrills That Kill, and two cover songs. Their version of the Tom Waits' classic Hang On St. Christopher, and their version of Tom Lenoir's Talk to Your Daughter. This record, just like their debut, was produced by longtime Van Halen producer Ted Templeman. Next is Voodoo Highway, the second record from Badlands. This was known for three songs, their cover of James Taylor's Fire and Rain, The Last Time, and Soul Stealer. The song before that was Joe's Blues, and that was named after Joe Holmes, who at the time was a guitar tech for Jake E. Lee during the recording of Voodoo Highway. Years before, he was the guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne. Voodoo Highway featured Jeff Martin on drums, who had been the lead singer of bands like Surgical Steel and Racer X. He had replaced drummer Eric Singer, who later joined Kiss for the album Revenge. Next up is the fifth studio record, Hot Wire, from Kix, a band out of Baltimore, Maryland, USA. The album peaked at number 64 on the Billboard 200 in October of 91, but it failed to match the sales of their previous record, Blow My Fuse. Producer Taylor Rhodes contributed to 5 of 10 songs on this record. He later went on to co-write one of Aerosmith's biggest hits, In Crying, off of Get a Grip. Bob Halligan Jr. and John Palumbo only had 2 songs they co-wrote that made it on this album. The standout tracks for me were Girl Money and Tear Down the Walls. Symbol of Salvation, the fourth album from Armored Saint, takes the 10th spot. The record was produced by Dave Jerden, a producer that produced Alice in Chains albums Dirt and Facelift. He also produced Jane's Addiction's Nothing Shocking and Ritual Delo Habitual. Here's a funny fact though, this would be the last record to feature singer John Bush, because in 1993, he would be the frontman for Anthrax and Dave Jerden would produce the album Sound of White Noise. Prior to the making of this record, however, original Axeman Dave Pritchard died of leukemia. The song Hanging Judge was featured in the 1992 horror film Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. But the standout tracks from this one are Rain of Fire, The Truth Always Hurts, and Tainted Past. Next up is the one and only album from grunge supergroup Temple of the Dog. This record went to the top 5 of the Billboard 200 and went platinum. This record features members of Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. It's a tribute to the late Andrew Wood, who died in March of 1990. The one song that stood out was Hunger Strike. There was also another single from this record called Say Hello to Heaven. Saigon Kick, the self-titled debut from this Floridian quartet. This one had been a bridge between the glam metal sound and the grunge sound, as a lot of music was created by founding member Jason Beiler. This record also features backing vocals from journeyman singer Jeff Scott Soto. Saigon Kick's debut was produced by Michael Wagner, a legendary German producer known for producing hit albums in the 80s, and this is an underrated gem of the 90s, featuring songs like What You Say, New World, Susie, Colors, and Come Take Me Now. Next up, it's Roll the Bones, Rush's 14th studio album. This one was a return to commercial success for this trio from Canada, as the album went to number 3 on the Billboard 200 and was certified platinum. Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, and Neil Peart started work on Roll the Bones after a small hiatus after the tour promoting their recent record, 1989's Presto. The standout tracks include Dreamline, Ghost of a Chance, and the title track, Roll the Bones. Next up, Hellacious Acres, the second studio effort from Texas quintet Dangerous Toys. Even though this album was not on a level as their 1989 debut was on, the record produced by Roy Thomas Baker had some serious standout tracks that would jump out and smack you right in the face. Songs like Gimme No Lip, Line 'Em Up, Best of Friends, and their rendition of Bad Company's Feel Like Making Love. Sadly, this would be the last Dangerous Toys album released on Columbia Records. They would release 2 more albums, Pissed in 1994, and the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys a year later. In 5th place is Saints and Sinners, the solo album from Kane Roberts. This album was produced by Desmond Child, who also had co-writing credits on all the tracks on this album. And this was the only Kane Roberts album worth a damn. The songs that really stood out were Twisted and the cover of Cher's Does Anybody Really Fall in Love Anymore? That song was featured on Cher's Heart of Stone record released in 1989 and was a big hit for Kane Roberts. Next up in 4th place is Great White's Hooked, the album that lacked a recognizable hit single, and the album wasn't commercially successful as Once Bitten or Twice Shy, but nonetheless the record reached the top 20 on the Billboard 200 and was certified gold. The album had such remarkable cuts like Call It Rock and Roll, Desert Moon, Congo Square, and their cover of the Small Faces song Afterglow. This record would be the last with bassist Tony Montana. He had appeared on albums Once Bitten and Twice Shy prior to the release of Hooked. In 3rd place is Tesla's 3rd album, Psychotic Supper. Following the success of the 5-man acoustical jam live release and the hit single Signs, which became Tesla's biggest hit to date, Psychotic Supper was peak Tesla when it came to popularity, as this record reached number 13 on the Billboard 200 and went platinum. The standout tracks include Call You What You Want, What You Give, Edison's Medicine, and Song and Emotion, an epic that was a tribute to Steve Clark of Def Leppard, who died in January of 1991. The runner-up happens to go to Queen's Innuendo. Released in February of 1991, this album was Freddie Mercury's magnum opus, his final album in his lifetime as a member of Queen, and nobody knew that Freddie was diagnosed with AIDS, which he kept a secret for 4 years out of the public eye. 4 years. 9 months after this record was released, he died of AIDS, the same day as the drummer of Kiss, Eric Carr, dying of cancer. Anyway, the standout tracks from this record include Headlong, These Are the Days of Our Lives, I'm Going Slightly Mad, the title track Innuendo, and the album closer The Show Must Go On. The album reached number 1 in the UK and went platinum there. This was really Freddie Mercury's magnum opus. And the most underrated and underappreciated album of 1991 is Lean Into It, the second studio album from Mr. Big. The album peaked at number 15 on the Billboard 200, and it featured two hit singles, the number one song, To Be With You, and the follow-up, Just Take My Heart, which reached number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album also featured cuts like Daddy, Brother, Lover, Little Boy, Green Tinted 60s Mind, and a song that should have been a single but it wasn't, Never Say Never. That song is an underrated gem and one of my favorite tracks from Lean Into It. So, here is a quick recap of the 15 most underrated and underappreciated albums of 1991. Now, if you haven't checked out my album rankings video from 2 weeks ago, when I ranked the 10 best rock and metal albums of 1991, I suggest you check out that video, as it's on the rankings playlist in the description box. This is one of the most difficult rankings lists to make this week, and this was not an easy one to rank. But it is what it is.
No.